Hi everyone, my name is Monique, and today I'm partnering with my best friend Kaye of Teacher Kaye Talks.
Hello!
I will let her introduce herself later, but basically today what we're going to talk about is how we read books more effectively so that more learning comes from it.
Teacher Kaye. If you're subscribers to Monique's Home, I'm a certified speech-language pathologist, and my channel is full of tips and strategies and techniques that we use in our profession, speech-language pathology, that you can try to practice and do with your kids at home.
So to make this go a lot smoother, we will break it into 3 parts: pre-reading, during reading, and after reading. First stage is the pre-reading stage. There's so many questions we can ask, so many prompts that we can say even before we read the actual story. Now, the important thing to remember with this stage is that our goal really is to motivate them to invest themselves in the story, to put themselves in the shoes of the character, for them to listen and not only hear the words that we say so they find out what happens in the story later on. We want them to be involved. We want them to make a connection to the book. And we do this by asking age-appropriate questions. For much younger children, we want them to use their observation skills and really just describe the things that they see in the cover. For example, in this book, Roosters Off to See the World, we can ask toddlers or 3-year-olds to identify the animal, to name the colors that they see. And for much older children, you would want now to create a connection between the book and the children by maybe asking them if they've ever seen a rooster before. And we also want to motivate them to stick to the story and to listen all the way to the end by maybe asking them to predict what will happen in the story later on.
Taking my cue from Monique, I'm just going to give you more specific examples of what she said about pre-reading. So for pre-reading, I'm going to take this book for example. It is The Legend of Juan Pawikan and the 7,107 Islands. It was written by Celine Fabian. So if you're talking to very young children, pre-reading would just be like, here's the cover of the book. It has turtle, green turtle, turtle swimming, swim in the water. And then if you want to ask them, do you know how to flip to the next page? You want to say, flip, flip. So I usually do that with my kids. I usually try to have a word target and an action target so that whichever one they try, I could accept it and flip the page for them so they can understand a concept. Or like next page, and then so you could tap to the edge of the page where they can flip, or they can see me flip it, so that if they want me to flip it, I'll know because they'll touch that part of the page. So I'll go next page, and then you can continue reading. But if your children are a little bit older, you can just point to your target and ask them what they see on the cover. So for example, what's that? A turtle, you're right. What color is the turtle? It's green. For children that already have inferencing skills, to make inferences is to suppose things that are not literally said or shown in the picture. So for example, a type of inferencing question I could ask is, there's a turtle and there's an octopus there, and they're somewhere blue, and there's a school of fish. Where could they be? Where is this story set? So those are some types of pre-reading inferencing questions that you can ask.
Next stage is during reading, or when we actually go through the text in the story. Now, while reading in itself is already such a rich learning activity, like any other activity that we do with the children, it can be enriched all the more with the kinds of conversations that we have with the children by being very intentional with our interaction with them. So what we want to keep in mind here is, again, to be age appropriate. With much younger children, we stick to their observations. We stick to more literal questions. Asking them about what they see, asking them to describe things in the book. For older children, this is the time that we really want to get into their minds and really try to get a glimpse of how they make sense of the world, how they understand things, by not only asking them questions about the story itself, but trying to go beyond that and encouraging them to connect what they read in the story to things that happen in their own lives, to things that they see happening in their community.
So for toddlers that are just learning concepts of nouns, those are actually the first few types of words that they add to their vocabulary. So nouns or objects are some of the easiest things to point out to because they're literal on books. So if I were to target a toddler who is just learning words, I would say things like turtle, head. There's also turtle, 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 fish. So many fish. You have fish, 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 fish. And you notice that I'm making my voice smaller when I say fish for the smaller ones, just because playing with sounds helps form different kinds of ideas already and thoughts of, oh, her voice is getting smaller. Maybe it's because the fish is also smaller. If your children are a little bit older and your goals are now, let's say, 2-word phrases, the next time that you go through this book, you can instead focus on turtle swimming, turtle swimming, mommy turtle, mommy glasses. And then for even older children that understand feelings and emotions and identifying those characteristics in a book, it could be nice to talk about things like, what do you think Turtle is feeling here? I'm going to make the same face. And so if he doesn't understand what this means, if your child doesn't understand that face the turtle is making, if you make it with sounds, then there's a bigger possibility that your child has encountered that in your life. So if I say, I'm gonna copy turtle, what do you think I'm feeling? When else do you say, so, right, that's either like surprise or scared or afraid. And if you want to check their comprehension slowly as you're going through the book, you could look here and there's the words, the text is saying, bombs bringing fright and fear to all. No one knew how and no one knew why. But can you see if your child knows why or how? And flip back to the page and say, here there was a huge ship on the water where they were swimming, and the next thing they knew, there were bombs. Where could the bombs have come from?
Last and final stage is the after reading. So once you close the book, your job is not done. There's so many questions you can still ask. You can continue the conversation with your child to still strengthen that connection, strengthen that bond, not only with you, but with the book that you've just read. So for much younger children, you can just extend the experience by maybe asking them about what they'll do if they maybe see a rooster in the future. For much older children, we want to go beyond just checking for understanding. So yes, we want to ask them questions to see if they remember details in the story, like maybe if they remember the other animals in the book. But we want to go beyond that and really invite them to maybe even critique how it was written, to say, to find the connection between their own experiences and what has happened in the book, or for them to say what part they liked best or what part they might change. Now, another thing that you might want to do, that I do a lot with my own kids and the kids that I've taught in preschool, is to create extension activities. So we go beyond the conversations that you have about the story and create fun, hands-on experiences that you could do, at another day, at a later time. So for example, with this book, you can maybe create an art activity where they shred pieces of of tissue paper, Japanese paper, to create this rooster, to create a collage of the cover of the book. Or you can create a math activity asking them to count the different animals in the story. So again, the story does not end, at bedtime. It doesn't end with just you reading to them. It extends to the other areas of their lives. It extends to the other learning activities that you do with them.
You can also encourage divergent naming by doing things like, yes, there was a turtle, but do you remember the other animals that were also in the pictures? And he can say things like octopus or fish and things like that. And then even beyond that, you can have him practice, all right, let's get a pen and paper and let's draw all the other animals that you think are in the ocean with these animals. So there was turtle, octopus, and fish. What other animals live in the ocean? And for kids that are a little bit older, and if you want to try practicing their cause and effect, you could give the cause and say, do you remember that part where this happened? And then what happened after that? Or you could check for their sequencing skills. So you could try to put maybe 5 blanks and then say, okay, try to remember things that happened first and then after that and what happened at the end, and fill in the blanks in the middle. You can encourage them to do this by either drawing things they remember or just giving keywords. And then of course, if they can't supply complete sentences yet to retell the story, you supply it for them. The important thing is you see that their mind is processing the story or what they saw in the book.
So that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining us in this episode. Kaye and I hope that the things that we talked about today are things that you can apply, the next time that you read to your children or to other children. And we hope that it becomes a more enjoyable experience for you and your child.
I really enjoyed this episode with Monique. Thank you so much for having me on your channel. And I really wish that you could have a happy talking.
So like always, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing not only to my channel, to Monique's Home, but also to Kaye's channel, Teacher Kaye Talks. We are both here to really support families, to support educators, and really make a difference in children's lives. I will see you next time. Until then, remember to make every day your own version of extraordinary.